So the president has had a good year. The highlight, of course, being the election win in August, a resounding win against Nelson Chamisa and his Triple C, and an even honey sweet win by ZANU-PF to retain its status as the ruling party of Zimbabwe. This was the highlight of our president's political achievements during the year. Subsequent to that, we had a very successful party conference in Gweru, which focused solely, if not mainly, on the economic prospects of Zimbabwe, which will be the main subject of my attention today, because it reflects the adage that nothing succeeds like success. Nothing succeeds like success. And the story of President Mnangagwa in terms of economic performance for Zimbabwe is a story of success on a scale and on a scope which Africa has never known. It's said that there are toxists in the Zimbabwean national body politic, toxists, and I met some of them during my sojourn at the CEO executive conference in Victoria last month. There are toxists, naysayers, doomsayers, who never want to see the reality of this economy, even when it is hitting them like a bolt of lightning. They don't want to see it, and they continue to preach a negative message about how Zimbabwe is performing economically, trying to blindside the whole population into following willy-nilly their toxic message. The president is delivering palpable economic tangibles to the Zimbabwe people. Every other day, you are seeing the president cutting ribbons on projects of all hue and color. You know, I was remarking the other day that most probably his fingers are now having sores, mourning, because the president is busy with the scissors cutting ribbons on major economic projects, which are not only of national importance, which are not only of regional importance, but which are of global importance. And still people don't want to see that. Why? Because if a steel plant is built by the Chinese, it doesn't exist. Even when the company which is building it is the largest in the world. When 6 billionaires land in Zimbabwe to do lithium, the top billionaires of the whole world land in Zimbabwe, and they start mines and start lithium carbonate plants to supply Volkswagen, Tesla, Toyota, Nissan, Ford, Citroen, Peugeot, a PSA. When they build those plants to supply lithium carbonate for the batteries of those major car producers of this world, people don't want to acknowledge it because it is being done by Chinese companies. So it doesn't exist. This is when the billionaires are exploiting the fifth largest resource of rock lithium in the world, which is in Zimbabwe. We are the fifth in terms of resources. We bring companies, billionaire companies, to do that. That's what the president has done. He has looked at the resources of Zimbabwe and started identifying the most competent technological partners, the most competent productive companies in those fields, and is bringing them to Zimbabwe, because the resource of Zimbabwe is commensurate to the capacity of global scale companies. That's why they are here. But our toxists, who are used to the post-colonial Rhodesian economy, they can't fathom the scope and scale of what the president is doing. It's said about those people, but we in ZANU-PF and the people of Zimbabwe, we are seeing an economy which is pumping. Look at the vehicles on the road. Look at the service stations which are being built. Look at the construction which is being done in this country, not on a scale which ever in the history of this country. Look at the hotels. They are all full of business people coming to Zimbabwe. Word has gone around that Zimbabwe is the best place to be if you're an investor. Look at our president being lionized in Dubai. He is being lionized by top business people of the world. He goes he gets invited by the country with the largest sovereign wealth fund in the world, Saudi Arabia. He gets invited to an Arab summit because the Saudis are seeing something about Zimbabwe which our Toxis are not seeing. If it was the Chinese, then they would say, well, they are traditional friends of ZANU-PF. But these are new players, new kids on the block in terms of investment. They are all paying attention to what our president is doing in this country. And we have these Toxis who are claiming to be pundits of investment when actually they are just downright ignoramuses who are blind to what is going on on the stage of Zimbabwe. We have even the British. They are eating out of Zimbabwe, the palms of Zimbabwe. They are excited about what they are doing. Their ambassador Pete Vowles, he's coming here with a bullish message about Zimbabwe and where it is going, even with the former colonial power. Now, this was the country which was the main source of bad news about Zimbabwe. They are bullish about Zimbabwe. Look at the frequency of meetings which we are now having with the British. People don't meet frequently unless there's something good which is going on. People who are quarreling, they don't. So the president has really been in London several times, and each time the British are getting a chance to meet Zimbabwe as president, they are seizing that chance. We had Andrew Mitchell meeting again the president just a few days ago in Dubai. This is a vote from the country which sponsored the money for the formation of the opposition in Zimbabwe in 2000. What does it mean? They are moving to a new page about Zimbabwe, a new page, a bullish new page about London-Harare relations. Now we have these people who are a product of a bygone era when the relations were not too good. They still spread the message of toxic Zimbabwe, toxic Zimbabwe. It's in their imagination. It's an aberration. It's far from the reality of what this country is. And there's that, fishering party, which was originally formed by that money, the CCC. It's gone. They are at each other's throats. Everybody knows that the internecine fights which are going on there are the product of the Wapusa philosophy, which CCC became after the departure of Tsvangirai. A whole party built on labor structures of the labor movement, which ZANU-PF set up after independence. There was no labor movement, legal labor movement before independence. We set it up, the ZCTU, as a product of the Zimbabwe Revolution. 2 decades later, it is hijacked and it becomes a party for the subversion of the Zimbabwe Revolution. But as a democratic state, we let it subsist. Then with the passage of time, the momentum which we had built peters out. And unfortunately, their leader also dies, because naturally people die. We know you come and you grow, you exist and you die. Tsvangirai dies. Who takes over the party? It's a coup within the party. They've never held a congress. They have no structures. They take part in having no structures. Yeah, and the people who are supporting them, they all come from countries with the party structures. Their governments are elected by party structures. But they still handhold this party which has no structures and expect it to do miracles in Zimbabwe. It's not possible that a structureless party can do miracles. And sooner rather than later, the electorate sees that this party is a phantom organization. It does not exist, and the electorate starts abandoning it. You are seeing it now in the elections which are happening even in Mbare, urban area. If you want to know the bellwether of Zimbabwean politics, start with Mbare. That's where the nationalist movement started to be where we are today. That's where the most, ardent of cadres, those who were most, organized, came from to go to the war. Last election, Barry decided to abandon Triple C. It's an urban trend. It has happened now in urban. We are winning by-elections in urban constituencies. The message is getting through that President Mnangagwa, by having the economic reforms which he has done and attracting capital, he is restoring vitality to the urban areas. There is a time lag between investment in mining and in agriculture, which are in rural areas, begins to have a national impact on the national economic scale. There's a time lag, a lead time, a gestation time. Now that gestation time is now beginning to catch up with the urban areas, because the investments which are now going on in rural areas are now beginning to have a spillover effect in urban areas. We are going to have many people get 7 to 5 jobs, because that's what urban people want, 7 to 5 jobs. When you get steel plants, when you get the battery manufacturing plants being invested in, it means people can get 7 to 5 jobs and they get a wage. And this is what is now reviving urban hopes. Now, this is in sharp contrast to a party which for 2 decades has been in urban areas, and never in one day has their leader been seen with a businessman. Businessmen come to Zimbabwe from foreign countries. They land at the airport. They never get any reception from a Triple C town father. They have to go to rural areas, to mining areas to get investment, when their natural place of call from the airport should be Harare, because that's where the town is. A town is not a place for homes. That's why the Triple C, they all talk about stands. The people are stand every corner. They are converting what were playgrounds, into stands. Factories during their tenure were being turned into church houses, because they think the town is a place of residence. It's not a place of residence. A town is a place of industrial activity, factories. Residence supports factories. So if you don't have an industrial policy in an urban area, you have lost the game. And for 2 decades, towns have lost the game. You have never seen a Triple C father, city father, or town father in the last 20 years with a businessman opening or attracting investment to a factory. That's why the towns have decayed. They have rotted under now we are now having to use the central government to come in and provide services which normally the ratepayer should be expecting from the city fathers. Look at Kwadzana. You've got big vegetable gardens of sewage vegetables, because sewage is not flowing around. People harvest, they eat those vegetables because they are being watered by sewage. Cholera all over the place. Why? Because the urban areas have no sewage. They have no water reticulation. They have no reliable electricity, even in the era when electricity is supplied by light. If we had been a forward-looking city fathers, all the rooftops in urban areas would be covered by solar panels. People would not need to be complaining about electricity from the central government. But there was no foresight at all with the city fathers that the urban trend today is off-grid electricity. And what better place than Zimbabwe? It's very difficult to put a solar panel. The towns, there's a marat. If they had been any forward planning by the city fathers, by that party which wanted to claim to be part of excellence. Why? Because they've got one fixation. Any power between where they are now is of no use until we get power at the State House. So along the route there are power centers. Local government authorities are power centers. That's why they are called local government, with statutes under the Constitution which support who they are. But because Chamisa had not yet gone to State House, He sleeps on the wheel. Triple C sleeps on the wheel of urban governance. Completely sleeping on the wheel of urban governance. Because takamirira chinhu chikuru. Chikuru ku State House. Zvimwe zvese zviri murodha hazvina basa. Now what is the result? Urban decay. Now it is being revived by what ZANU-PF is doing, because the amount of investment in mining, in agriculture, is going to create resources which are now attracting capital on a scale, big scale, which are now, so ZANU-PF will be at the airport very soon. We will be at the airport with investment desks, welcoming investors by their troop. And they will not be looking for townhouses, whereas the normal thing for anybody is to arrive in a country and look for a townhouse, for the townhouse, for the mayor, because investors go to a place, to an address. They are not looking for the state, for the government. They are looking for a place to do business. So the normal place of call would have been the townhouse, but nobody is there. Completely nobody is there. So this is the contrast which I want this year, where the picture is beginning to emerge of a forward-looking party and a visionary leader bringing deliverables to the Zimbabwean population, attracting global class capital to Zimbabwe, as opposed to a party which is constantly in a rear review mood, rear review mirror frame of mind. They never look at where the car is going in the windshield. They are always looking at the rear review mirror. How do we get to the State House? How do we, even when the elections are over? The elections are over in August. What we are doing is by-elections. No, we must convince the world that there must be a rerun of Zimbabwe elections. Who is to be convinced? We want to SADC to be organized. But we are free as a country since independence in 1980. We are sovereign. Nothing. SADC is a voluntary organization we belong to because we are independent. Now you want to give SADC colonial status over Zimbabwe, to order Zimbabwe to have elections. And SADC says, no, Zimbabwe is a member country. We are on a peer-to-peer basis. We are happy with their elections, so we don't want. So Luanda says it's over. The elections are over. Triple C has been telling Zimbabwean electors that the elections are not over. So the whole country was supposed to be in a mark time about August. The clock stops in August. Until now SADC eventually announced that there's nothing like that. And the much touted EU report, nobody cares about that report because it was written at Harvest House. The country has moved on. The EU is not a sovereign, is not an imperial power on Zimbabwe. So a whole party was fixated on a clock which stopped in August because they were waiting that the elections, which are supposed to come in 2028, should now be compressed back again to this year. It does not happen. So these are the things which we want to highlight, the contrast of the visionary leadership of President Mnangagwa and his deliverable, palpable deliveries, as opposed to the dying Triple C party. Now they are at each other's throats, and it is not going to end there. It's not going to end well. You know, the courts refuse to entertain them because you got to go to court with a structure. Who is complaining? Where is your constitution? Where are your structures? If you're an amorphous organization and you are before the courts, how does the judge make a judgment in favor of an amorphous organization which everybody acknowledges? So the guy who was last elected is Chabangu. So the historical structure is one which the courts know. He wins his court case, and surprise, surprise, Chamisa does not go to court to defend his party. Can you imagine? It's a family, and the siblings are quarreling. They go to the village chief. The village chief says, okay, you are quarreling. I want to know who is your father, who is your mother. And the father and the mother are not there. And the siblings are accusing each other. How will the judge decide who is who? Because somebody must vouch for these siblings. Chamisa does not even bother to go to court. And you expect to win a court case. You know, the Wapusa party. Now, in that party, there is a young girl, a youthful girl. We all respect youthful girls. More so when their father was a renowned educationist, Mr. Mahere. He's a renowned educationist, permanent secretary of education. In this fissuring and disintegrating party, Mahere wants to look like there is something which is there. It's no longer there, this part. And she continues to make statements as a chatterbox, left, right, and center. And most of the time, she's talking about things which she has got little grasp of. She reads, she can't grasp, she can't comprehend, she can't apprehend. She talks about the budget. She's a lawyer. I wanted to be a lawyer in my life. And later on, I became a finance man. Later on, I became a telecommunications specialist. You must respect knowledge about a certain discipline before you start talking authoritatively about it. She makes lengthy statements about the budget of this country, saying it is anti-people, it is anti-this, it is anti-this. You read it, all boulder dash, no substance, because here is a flimsy legal mind trying to explain some of the deepest concepts about finance, economics, and money. A subject which is well beyond your grasp. But because there is a vacuum in your party about how to substantively run things, she just thinks that her words can pass for knowledge. No, they can't pass for knowledge because they are not knowledgeable about what you are talking about. Your statements about the budget are a lot of balderdash, a lot of nonsense. That budget is grounded on the economic performance of the Zimbabwean people as they work. We are earning US dollars in Zimbabwe. We are not being given by the American government. All the $100 notes you see, they are all earned by Zimbabweans. They are not a gift from the Federal Reserve Bank of America. This is the basis on which the Minister of Finance and the Governor of Central Bank have presented the budget of Zimbabwe. And by the way, it is actually it will turn out to be an interim, a stopgap budget, because the kick-in effect of what's going on in our economy because of the investments of rates are going to create a positive big bang about the Zimbabwean economy. I just phoned today the Customs Bureau, ZIMRA. I said, how much did we import to date in terms of steel? We imported $6.3 billion US dollars of steel. This is a big figure. This is to support the construction which is going on in Zimbabwe, $6.3 billion. In 2 months' time, I've made an offer, which I still have to keep. We start producing steel on a scale which is bigger than what we are importing. So in that budget, 6.3 billion will turn up to be homegrown money from Manizi, 6.3 billion. And 1/3 of that steel will be for export. So you add another 1/3 to 6.3 billion of earned money, because we have saved 6.3 billion and we have added 1.3, at least 2 billion Zimbabwe dollars. Can you imagine what the impact of that on the economy of the country in the next budget? Because we are working on the historical performance of this economy, but the president has created an economy much, much bigger than what people have been traditionally used to. And they listen to some political commissar who also posits as an economist. His name is Gift Mugano. Always penning what the government is doing. He has never visited one lithium plant which is now producing 300,000 to 400,000 tons of lithium carbonate. And there are 5 or 6 of them. Mugano has never been to any of them. He sits in his office, he looks at what he did when he landed at the University of Rhodesia, Zimbabwe, a long time ago, and he is in a time warp. He is not seeing what the president is doing right now in terms of attracting world-class capital to invest in Zimbabwe's resources. Then he spouts a lot of silly figures about where this economy is going, far removed from what it means. Do you also realize the frequency of our meetings between Mozambique and Zimbabwe, between the two presidents? I told you earlier on about the British. Now about Mozambique. Do you know the reason? Because Mozambique is fully prepared for a boom in exports from Zimbabwe. They've already rebuilt the railway line to Machipanda. Done by Mozambique. They are building 2 terminals in Beira to cater for the boom in exports from Zimbabwe. Mozambique has done it already. They are planning a new port north of Beira. All of it based on the prospect of Zimbabwe coming back as the hinterland of Mozambique, the economic hinterland of Mozambique. This is the reality of another neighboring country, which is reading the signs, the litmus paper, the litmus test of what is going on, and they are anticipating what Zimbabwe's impact will be on the logistics sector of Mozambique. And our neighbors in South Africa are coming in to fund new transmission lines. They are coming in to fund new railway lines. They are coming in to fund water pumps, water pipes. Yet I've got those people who are saying the country is toxic. How is it toxic to our, not toxic to neighbor, to Mozambique? Why is it not toxic to South Africa, but it is toxic to you? So I want you, as the fourth estate, to try to follow exactly what the president is doing. Look at the projects which is opening, which is launching as he goes and cuts ribbon. Look at the profiles of the investors in those companies. Who are they on the global stage? Just don't write a story because that's all when I'm gone. Look at who is the investor and why is he here. This is all information on Google. It does not require BT or Nigel Chanakira or Trevor Ncube to make you become enlightened. Because if you get into the toxic framework, then you are poisoned with their toxicity, which is far removed from the reality of what the president is doing. So I encourage you, this is the magical effect of what the president is doing to the national economy. And this is what the achievements of the president in the course of 2023. And is going to build upon that in 2024. So as we go for Christmas and for the end of the year holidays, we must go there on a bullish mood because the president is doing well. Look at the power sector in 1 year. 2 major power stations have been built, and they are pumping 600 megawatts. Look at what is now happening with investment in the independent power sector, in the off-grid power sector. Young people from all over are coming in with their partners from abroad to come and put independent power plants. This is what the president has done to energize the business spirits of the Zimbabweans. And they are coming to the fore in many, many more ways than one. So this is the positive, bullish message which we are communicating to you, that it has been a good year for our president, it has been a good year for our party, and it has been a good year for the government of Zimbabwe. And for the youths, this is very important. We have an educated population, most of them because of the 2 decades of urban decay, but also because of what happened before our party was rejuvenated by President in 2017. There was no hope. All these things I am talking about, they mean new jobs for young people. I'll give you an example of the excitement which, do you know that we had an electric railway line in Zimbabwe between Dabuka and Harare, and it was abandoned? The young people, the engineers who built that railway line, they left the country. You know where they were? They are? They went and started working for British Rail. 30, 40 years later, they are experienced, they are retiring. They are Zimbabwean. They now know that there will be a new railway line to be built from Selu to the siding to take ferrochrome away from the road. They now know that there will be a new railway line built from Lionsden to Lusaka to take Zambian cobalt and copper of the road. Have you ever traveled on this road going to Chirundu? It's almost like it's a train of 30-ton trucks. They are carrying cobalt and copper from Zambia to Beira. Have you ever traveled on the road from Victoria Falls to Bulawayo and you hit Wange? The road is gone. We are taking coking coal from Wange to South Africa's ArcelorMittal, delivering 300,000 to 400,000 tons of coking coal by road. Do you realize that we will need a railway line between Manize and Bvuma? Do you realize we'll need a railway line between Bvuma and Nyazura to carry steel? Do you realize we'll need a railway line from Mashingo to Rutenga to deliver steel to South Africa and to Maputo? These are the things which make the two leaders meet more often. You understand? And those young engineers, now seasoned, they are now looking at coming back home with the experience which they get over the years to come and give Zimbabwe a logistical network to support all this regional traffic, all this internal traffic. And people don't see hope in that. I'm saying to young people, don't be misled. What's happening in this economy will have a big impact on who you are, and put your mind in the proper frame of thinking, because you will be hit by lightning and then you say, Zvabvane kupi? Amnangagwa, varikuita mashura. Nezviri kuitwa economy. And we need our young people to be properly psyched to understand where we are going. These will be top-notch jobs which will cater for our diaspora, which will cater for our educated young people at home, which will also cater. And have you seen the return of the white diaspora into the country? And where title deeds exist, the white diaspora is coming back from the 70s and from the 80s. All of them, they are destroying the one house which the family left in the 1970s and 80s. They are building 6 to 7 detached houses, 6 for rent, 1 for the family. This is our white. If we go to Northern to Borrowdale, to Borrowdale on Saturday, you would think you're in North London, because our white population is identifying once again with home. And this is happening with our diaspora, the black diaspora from the 2000. Look at Madokero, look at what all over. And then Mamisha, young people who are digging gold, who supply 2.63% of the $2.4 billion US of gold. You know, $2.4 billion worth of gold we produce. They are building solar panels all over in rural areas. They are supporting their families as just much as they are supporting the central bank to have the currency which we have. So this is the new Zimbabwe. That's why the country is on a trajectory which is good. And that's what we want to say to you. Keep your eyes open to you, inform the population accordingly. That Zimbabwe, Zimbabwe is on a winning streak, because nothing succeeds like success. And that summarizes what President Mnangagwa has been doing for this economy. President Mnangagwa is delivering success and is on the verge of delivering even more successes to this economy, because mainly he is harnessing the creative and enterprising pursuits of the Zimbabweans as they work day to day in agriculture, in mining, in all aspects, in tourism. Zimbabweans have this new feeling that we can do it. He has created a can-do feeling among Zimbabweans. We are no longer a country which everybody thought was a hopeless case. Even the IMF was here. They are now talking a different language. They want to give Zimbabwe the support, even when their shareholders are not yet decided to lift sanctions. And by the way, their shareholders are sending feelers to say, chitima cha Mnangagwa chiri kufamba ichi tinosara, how do we also ride onto it? Yeah, so this is what the president has done to this economy. A can-do spirit is again caught hold of Zimbabweans, and we are going to do what Africa has never done, and the prospect of a middle income status country is getting closer and closer, probably will be there before 2030. And we are very happy that the electorate in urban areas is beginning to cotton on to what ZANU-PF is doing. That's why we are delivering by-election victories at local government level. We think that as more elections come, because of the infighting within CCC, we are going to score more victories. We are not the ones who occasioned the by-elections. So those who want to peddle the notion that it's because ZANU-PF wants 2/3 majority, we don't need 2/3 majority to run the country. We don't. And we don't need to change the constitution for a third term of our president. There are people who create problems within their party. The consequences reach to parliament. Then they want to ascribe the results of their consequences to ZANU-PF. No, chickens come home to roost. Your party is disorganized. You cause the elections. Don't try to get an explanation as to why all elections are happening in ZANU-PF. And because the electorate is seeing that you are disorganized, you are continuously losing by-elections, even in urban areas, which were their stronghold. This should be a writing on the wall to CCC that their days are numbered. And by the way, I want to end on this note. We want an organized and structured country, which means also the opposition we need is organized and structured, so that parliamentary business can proceed smoothly, so that the people of Zimbabwe can have the oversight of parliament. So this is what ZANU-PF wishes, not the Wapusa disorganization in CCC, which makes us go to elections every other day. It distracts our mind from the business of governance and delivering prosperity to Zimbabwe. So we have absolutely nothing to gain as a party and everything to lose by the internecine fights which are in the CCC. So don't try to say we have an attitude of trying to disorganize the opposition for our own gain. No, these are homegrown problems which are being thrust upon ZANU-PF. We have no intentions of changing the constitution. We have no intentions about a third term for this or that. We only have focus on Vision 2030 and the prospect of a middle-income society for Zimbabwe. And next time Mahere speaks, tell you that if you read, you must also grasp, you must also comprehend, you must also apprehend, you must also understand. Reading alone is not enough. And give respect to the professional competence of people in their different disciplines. Just because you are a lawyer doesn't mean you become an expert on economics. Just because you are a lawyer doesn't mean you are an expert on monetary finance. Just because you are a lawyer doesn't mean you are an expert on fiscal issues. And I'm not sure she's a good lawyer either, because their party is losing all these court cases. Maybe she would have done magic to convince the judges to give them favorable judgments when all the facts point to the fact that their evidence is wrong. They can't abuse evidence to the judge. So maybe her homework should more to do with the legal problems of her party than delving into the fields of finance and economics, which she has little knowledge of. And we are going to assure you also, this is important. Starlink is a technological marvel, Starlink Internet. It is a leap the same way GSM cellular was a leap from the fixed phones. Before, people used to look for phones to make a phone call. Now the phone looks for you because it's a mobile world. Now people used to build fiber optics and base stations to deliver the message to the phone. But now, with what's happening now with the technology, there's what is called low Earth orbit satellites at 500 kilometers instead of 29,000 geostationary satellites. So it means that the technology to deliver internet makes it possible for any remote part of the world to have internet connectivity. This is the ultimate digital inclusion which we want. So Starlink of Elon Musk, he has become the first company to make that breakthrough, commercial breakthrough. There are 3 or 4 or 5 others in tow which will be joining this. And there are also geopolitical considerations. Do you want to go with the European one? Do you go with the American one? Do you want to go with the Chinese one? So these are all things which we are looking at, but you can be assured that a right decision will be made to make sure that Zimbabwe joins our friends in Mozambique who are already on Starlink, our neighbors in Zambia who are already on Starlink, and many others, because it's a leapfrog in technology, and ZANU-PF wants technology to help in digital and financial inclusivity of the country. So right decisions will be made to make sure that Zimbabwe has got affordable internet. Now, if you have got historical investment in a technology which may now be challenged, it's exactly the same story with the PTC and the Net1 and Cell and no, we cannot stop the country's march of progress because there are legacy people with legacy investments with technology which may yet to be amortized, because technology has leapfrogged. We go to the next stage. So, some people, they also go to Mahere and start talking about this or that about Starlink. They are trying to protect legal legacy technology which have been bypassed or leapfrogged by new technologies. The Zimbabwe government caters only for what are the needs of the Zimbabwe population. Delivery of services at lowest cost. That's what we want. So we'll find ways of making sure that we join the technology bandwagon in terms of digital satellite internet or satellite digital internet. I think.